K-Talk 1650 is going to the dogs.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
It's time for the National K-9 Academy, so perk up your ears and start wagging your tails for the National K-9 Academy on K-Talk 1650.
And welcome to National K-9 Academy Radio here on K-Talk 1650. I am your host, Dan Stallings, and we are joined by a very special guest in the studio this week. And no, it's not you, Al. Al's over there puffing out his chest and everything. It's Maverick. Maverick, the one who started this whole thing with One Unforgettable Journey, the book we wrote, rescue that we took in off Craigslist and nursed back to health and ended up going all the way to Westminster. So he's actually in studio with us for the first time here at WHKT. And I'm joined this week by one of our my trainers at the Academy, Al. How you doing, Al?
Hey, I'm doing
Big
great.
Al. Big Al's joining us in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
And then, of course, we have Devontae here on the dials. How you doing, Devontae? All right, man. How are your dogs doing? All right. Yeah, Al thought the special guest this week was him, but it's Maverick. I mean, this dog has his own book, One Unforgettable Journey. You can see it check it out at oneunforgettablejourney.com. He has his own Facebook page titled Maverick. He has his own web page, as I just mentioned. He has a company named after him, Maverick Detection Services, which is the bedbug detection dogs, and the geese control, which he's a bedbug detection dog for us. He'll be in a second upcoming book called Beyond the Gray, and he has, as I'm wearing, his own T-shirt that says "Got Mav." Yeah, so so glad to have Maverick in the studio with us here, even though he's taking a siesta right now. He's been active, running around saying hello to everybody. But this week we are going to talk about some training collars, specifically e-collars as we call them, electronic collars. Unfortunately, a lot of people refer to them as shock collars. And most trainers don't refer to them as shock collars, and there's a specific reason for that. But we're going to have a guest joining us in the next segment, Robin MacFarlane from That's My Dog in Dubuque, Iowa, who is a Dogtra staff pro. Dogtra is one of the manufacturers of some of the best e-collars in the business. And we wanted to kind of just, again, dispel some myths that surround them. They're not a collar that's used in all training at the Academy, but they are used for some dogs. They're also a behavior shaping device. We use them on our working dogs when we do geese control for a lot of reasons we'll get into a little bit later. But Al, you've felt the e-collars, right?
Yeah.
What did it feel like when we tried one on you?
It just felt like just a little ticklish feeling. Just putting your tongue on a 9-volt weak battery.
Yeah, that's all it's supposed to. It's not supposed to make the dog jump 10 feet in the air and yelp. And I think that's the connotation a lot of people have with them and why they call them shock collars. And the ones that we use, and we do use them, are our choice is Dogtra. And they also have a page feature, which is not unlike when you turn your phones off like we do when we come in the studio here, and they just vibrate. And like I tell people, a vibration is most certainly not a shock. So, but again, they're not for every dog. We don't use them for everything that we do. It's mostly just for the off-leash work. So whenever the dog feels the input from the collar, he knows you need to be by my side. But there's a lot of misinformation out there about them. A lot of people are very much against them. And I think a lot of people don't realize how they're effectively used and the purpose of them. There are some trainers out there that use them for everything: sit, down, stay, heel. And there's applications. It varies from trainer to trainer. I was trained a certain way. That's why I wanted Robin to come on to talk a little bit about how she uses them. She actually puts on courses called ePalooza, where she has trainers come in from all over the U.S. and I guess all over the world. And she basically teaches trainers how to train using e-collars. So it's something that I learned when I went to school. If you remember back previous shows, about a month and a half ago, when I had Jerry Bradshaw on, where I went to school, and I learned under his tutelage how to properly use an e-collar. And as I said, I do use them on our dogs, especially the working dogs when we go out working. But it is not the best choice for every dog, but it is an option. And any good trainer will look at all the tools that are out there. that are available, and then make a decision on which ones you like, which ones you don't like, where they're applicable, because there is no one collar, there is no one type of training that's good for every dog. It's a dog by dog basis. That's how we do it. And we take into account a lot more at the academy: their exercise needs, their socialization issues, if there are any, their relationship with humans, not just their owner, but people in general, and then obviously their obedience, their level of obedience. And an e-collar, when used properly, can actually affect all those different areas. And it gives a dog greater freedom for exercise. You can allow the dog to roam and run off leash. It can be used as a behavior shaping device if the dogs act aggressively towards people, like when they run to the fence and bark. And that's a common thing we hear. Or if they're aggressive toward people, we use it for the recall so they can come right back when you call them. We work with hunting dogs a lot. We do the geese control. The last thing I want to happen is one of my dogs to ever run away or run out in the street chasing a bird. So I make sure, and the only way to guarantee that is to use something like an e-collar, because you're trying to override their natural instinct, their prey drive. And again, it's not something that's done forceful. We always follow minimum necessary force, no matter what kind of training we do. I try to just use verbal commands and verbal corrections, and it's just there if you need it, if the dog fails to respond to that. But again, it is a viable training aid. It is a behavior shaping device, and there's definitely a place in the dog training world for it. But like anything, it has to be used correctly. It has to be used by someone with knowledge of how to use them. And that all starts with a trainer that knows how to properly use them. And that's where I don't think there's anyone in the country that's more qualified than Robin to come on and talk about this, and that's why we invited her to come on. I actually spoke with her the first time, I think, about 6-7 years ago. I reached out to her to talk to her about, e-collar use on some of the smaller dogs and that sort of thing, just to help my comfort level with it. And she was able to offer me some really good advice, and even kind of advance my knowledge a little bit over my experience. I've been using them for about 15 years now, and I'm amazed at the leaps in the technology over the last 10 years or so. It's just that they are not like what people think at all. They are so high tech. I know I was showing you some of the cool things that the ones that I have that have just come out in the last couple of years.
Pretty high tech.
Yeah, very high tech. Yeah. I mean, some with GPS on them built in as well, and some of them have locator beeps for like when you're out hunting in the brush and stuff, so you can find your dog, you can locate them. Some very useful stuff. I mean, they have a mile range. They're completely waterproof, rechargeable batteries, and the dog tree units have 127 settings. It used to be, 3 or 4, went from painful to excruciating. These go from nothing all the way up to 127, and we're generally using the lower end of that, 20 to 30 or so. Yeah. Like you were saying, felt like you're touching your tongue to a weak 9-volt battery.
Yeah, it's not.
I've had a lot of owners come in, and we always put it in their hand. If we're going to use it, if we're doing off-leash work, and we put it in the owner's hand and say, here, I want you to feel what we're going to be using on your dog. And a lot of the owners take a higher setting than their dogs do before they even feel it. And then we show them, so tell me where you can feel it, and then we show them where it is. And they're surprised, like, that's it? Yeah, that's it. I mean, there was one case, I had a German Shepherd I was training, and they wanted me to train him to come off lead. And when I would nick the dog, he would blink his eyes. I'm like, I am a terrible trainer. I just made your dog blink. I mean, that's it. That is all I want from him. I don't want anything more. And it's just to remind him, when I've asked you to come to me and you don't, you're gonna blink your eyes. But it works. I've had so many owners, and I shared this story with Robin. I've had so many owners that I've trained their dog using econ. They were a little nervous at first, and they've come back within a month. They're like, that thing is so cool, because they can let their dog run all over the place, and they call them, and they immediately come back to them, and they don't have to do anything. They don't have to push any buttons or do anything. Just call the dog, and that's the way we like to train the dogs. So. Well, Robin's on the line. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back, and we'll talk more about e-collars here on National K-9 Academy Radio, K-Talk 1650.
We'll be right back with the National K-9 Academy on K-Talk 1650.
Buddy, stop pulling me. What have you got in your mouth? Give me that. Buddy, come here. Buddy! No jumping. I'm sorry, are you okay? Buddy, no, I just took you out.
Does this sound like a typical day with your dog? At National K-9 Academy, we can help. We offer all breed obedience training and behavior modification. Our facility boasts 26,000 square feet fenced grass play area, a 4,500 square foot indoor with separate daycare play groups for large and small dogs, 2 saltwater pools, dock diving facilities, and state-of-the-art training equipment with multiple trainers. We offer the area's only lifetime money-back guarantee. Altogether, this could lead to more days like this with your dog.
Good boy, buddy. I'm so proud of you.
National K-9 Academy, located at 5503 Virginia Beach Boulevard in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Call us at 757-289-2700 and find us on the web at nationalk9academy.com. Maverick Detection Services is the only company of its kind anywhere. We rescue, rehabilitate, and train homeless worm runners to perform as bedbug detection dogs and Canada geese control canines. We are now the nation's largest independent bedbug detection company with 17 certified teams and the region's only geese control company. Our canines have been featured multiple times in local news, TV, and business journals, and even on ABC World News Tonight. Check us out on Facebook at Maverick Detection Services or online at todetectandtoserve.com, and you'll see why. Call us at 855-597-7827. Maverick Detection Services, right here in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
And now back with the National K-9 Academy on K-Talk 1650.
And welcome back to National K-9 Academy Radio. We have on the line now Robin MacFarlane. How you doing, Robin?
I am good, Dan. Happy to be here with you today.
Thank you. I'm joined by my co-host, Big Al. Say hi, Al.
Hi, hey, Robin. How you doing?
Hey. I wanted to have you come on because I wanted to have someone I consider to be one of the foremost experts in e-collar training in the country come on and talk a little bit about proper e-collar use and where there's a place for them in dog training, because there's so many people that still hold on to those old connotations about how they're shock collars and how they harm dogs. Can you first tell us a little bit about your background in training, dog training?
Yeah, I, like a lot of trainers, I suppose, kind of fell into training, so to speak. I was working as a veterinary technician for a number of years, and veterinarians were kind of the first line. When people are struggling with behavior problems, they're asking the veterinarian, and I was the technician in the room, and so I heard a lot of questions and really started to self-study so that I could provide more answers for people, and of course that led to a real passion as far as the behavior part of it, and started offering some classes back in 93, 94, doing it part-time while I was still working with the veterinarian clinic, and then moved on and decided to do it full-time, and in 98 I launched That's My Dog, and we've been doing it full-time ever since, and got a staff of 8 people here in Iowa with our training facility, and I do quite a bit of travel and workshops and seminars and teach training, and of course, I've gotten to build a bit of a reputation with e-collars, so good or bad. People still misunderstand it a lot, but I do a lot of talking and a lot of writing about e-collar training.
Well, that's awesome. That's why I wanted you to come on. So tell me a little bit about your training philosophy with e-collars.
Well, that's a big question, I guess. Here's the way it started for me, Dan. I didn't know a lot about the tool back in the late 90s, and it was something where I was doing a lot of lure and reward and a lot of positive reinforcement training, and then you find a few shortcomings, so I started to learn about prong collars, started to learn about slip collars, and do some lawn line work and those kind of things, and there were still people that were really struggling when it came to wanting off-leash reliability. So to get to that point, I knew that people were going to have to work either extraordinarily long and maybe still never get there, or I was going to have to learn about e-collars and I was going to have to be able to teach people to do it. And so that's how it started. It started as a tool to help people adjust to that off-leash control. And the more I dabbled, the more I worked at it, the more I learned, the more I really discovered that, in my opinion, this really is probably one of the most humane tools that we have on the market. It has tremendous finesse. The technology is so much more advanced than it was when this stuff came out, 50, 60 years ago. It's a far cry from where we were. But the e-collar has become a tool that's really a foundational tool in the program that I teach here in Dubuque. So,
right now, one thing that I wanted you to kind of elaborate on is something I mentioned in the previous segment, is how much the technology has changed over the last 10 years. It's just made incredible strides in how high tech this stuff is, how reliable it is, and how well it works.
Oh, gosh, I think it's hard to even comprehend where it was. You and I have been doing this for a while, and we've seen tremendous change in the last 10 years. But when they started out, and we're talking way back in the probably late 50s, early 60s, we were looking at a product that had essentially 2 or 3 levels, and all of them were ouch to holy smokes, Shazam. And they were being used in the retriever field work because dogs were 200 yards out and would scare up a deer and get off track and go off and be lost. And so it was just the stopping device, and it was pretty crude.
Right.
And thus the name shock collar was, it was apropos at that time. But now, just like everything else, we look around at our cell phones, we look around at, we're carrying these microcomputers in our pocket now. It has changed so much. I mean, the finesse, you can use a collar today and put it in somebody's hand to feel it, and they're not going to feel anything at all. It's just incomprehensible how much finesse it has, and then you gradually turn up much the same as a TENS unit in the human medical field, and gradually you feel this sensation, and I'm going to call it more of a tingling sensation, particularly on these lower levels. It's a tingling little bump sensation. As you go up, they absolutely do get stronger. We're not going to deny that to anybody. But even at the top levels, at full strength, it's still, it's a big ping. It will make my thumb jump, no doubt. But I can hold one in my hand. It is not comfortable, but it is totally safe. But the range of being able to go from that very, very low, mild tap, which is what we're all using, well, I should say I hope that we're all using that mild tap to get our dog's attention.
That's the key.
Up to that, much stronger sensation, it's just way, way different than it was a long time ago.
Absolutely. It's so much more reliable. The range is so much greater. There's so many more bells and whistles and features that are actually usable, not gimmicky. But, like you, I use that same kind of terminology with people. We talk about how it just tingles. And the TEMS unit, that actually, to me, if people have had electronic massage, that actually gets uncomfortable after a few minutes as your body starts to loosen up and feel it more. E-collars aren't even that uncomfortable the way we use them. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that's why we always, it sounds like you do the same thing. We always put it in our clients' hands and say, here, I want you to feel what we're using this on your dog. And then they go, oh, that's it? Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree, Dan. I think anybody that's going to use a collar needs to really expand their education about it, and one of those things includes put this in your hand, get familiar with the buttons, feel what the sensations are like, and we have to make sure that we understand the tool. And then I think it's also important when we're putting that on the dog not to make the assumption that it always is going to feel identical to the dog either. So let's say you and I decide, okay, on a 0 to 127 level collar, we decide that 20 is a level that's just right for us. I don't make that assumption when I put it on the dog. I'm still going to start way back at 0 on that dog in question, and I'm going to figure out what feels just right for that dog. Because surprisingly, we actually have quite a number of dogs that work at lower levels than what I can feel, which I think that stuns people, but just because their sensitivity and they're cued into different things, their sensitivity sometimes is much different than ours.
I've actually, and we mentioned that in the first segment too, about how we've actually had quite a few clients. We were at 30 or 32 on a dog tricollar, and they finally felt it, and we're using 18 on their dog. I actually had to put a test light on one to show them that it is actually working on your dog. But that's what I want. I want people to see this is not an inhumane torture device. This is actually a very useful training tool and behavior shaping device that is actually very gentle when used properly. And people don't believe me when I tell them. Just like you, I've probably tried somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 15 different training collars of different mechanisms, not just e-collars, but different mechanisms, mechanical and otherwise. And people don't understand and don't believe me when I tell them this is actually gentler than you using a flat collar on your dog. Because if you give a dog with a flat collar correction, there's no give. That force goes all to your dog's neck. Whereas this has so many settings on it, you can find just the right one for every dog. And we tell people every time you put it on your dog, you always find out where that minimum level is. You don't just use the same one every day, day after day, because the dogs have different days where they're amped up more than others and they're ready to go, and how tightly you put it on. Well, here's the $1 million question. And this is why I wanted you to come on. How do you respond to people that are against it or people that don't understand how it works?
Oh, boy, that is $1 million question.
We only have an hour show.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, if people are truly, truly opposed, sometimes there's not a conversation to be had. It depends. If people are genuinely curious and we can have a dialogue, then that's fabulous. I like people to know, look, it doesn't matter to me one way or another if you want to use a remote collar. I'm not going to push people to. You don't have to. I just believe, for me, it is the most humane choice, and I love this tool. So if we can have a dialogue, I want people to understand I'm not trying to convince anybody that they have to use this, but they should at least come to this debate with some knowledge. They should have tried different brands. They should have put it in their hand, and they should at least have the courtesy to watch me do the training the way that I do it, rather than judge a tool by some perceived misuse that they've seen, because I'm never going to deny that somebody could misuse this tool. Any of us can misuse a flat buckle collar or a leash. We can misuse anything. So I can't deny that. I only hope to be judged by the work that I'm doing, and that people will have an open dialogue with me about what I am doing with the tool. And I think when people watch, what they're going to notice is it's very subtle. You can barely tell when I'm pushing the button. What they will notice is a happy dog who is not diminishing in drive, who is paying greater attention, because essentially what we're doing, Dan, we're learning, and you know this, we're using tactile sensation to gain the dog's attention. And when they turn their attention toward us, then we're rewarding the dog for it. Yep. And a tactile cueing system is far more effective than an audible one. It's as simple as that. So to be able to cue the dog by essentially tickling him on the back of the neck and getting him to turn around and then teaching him that here, prize is waiting for giving that attention to me, it's just an incredibly powerful system, and it works across distance. It doesn't matter. As long as you're using a decent collar that's got a half-mile range, I can now tickle the dog when he's at the other end of the football field and I need him to come back to me. When he gets here, whether I want to use a cookie or a ball or just love on him, he's learning that sensation means pay attention because Mom's got good things for me on the other end, is absolutely so fast and so quick and so humane. But, I think just telling people that, I'm hard-pressed to convince them, because we've been dragging around the name shock collar for 50 years. And until they see that that is not the way this tool is being used by the vast majority of us promoting it, they're not going to believe it until they see it. So I guess my big call to people is, if you have curiosity, find a trainer who knows what they're doing and go have a discussion and watch them do it. To go on the Internet, it's easy to get lost in the emotion, and people want to say a lot of things that they have no basis or foundation in saying because they've never experienced it themselves. And then it's easy to get lost in the emotion that this is some kind of horrible tool, which it's really not.
Right, exactly. That's a great point. One of the things that I always tell people is this is the one training collar, or one collar period, that gives your dog the most freedom. And they need to look at it from that perspective too. It's the most reliable collar you'll ever use. It gives your dog the most freedom. I still feel it's the safest collar. I've not seen or heard of an e-collar anywhere other than one that's maybe left on them for weeks. Again, anything used improperly. But I've not seen anything anywhere that shows that these have ever harmed a dog.
No.
I agree. I agree with you 100%, Dan. They are completely safe. And the people that are promoting the idea that they burn, people that are showing these horrific pictures on the Internet, and we've all seen them, that is just neglect. And I can tell you from my years, I worked as a vet tech for a little over 7 years, I can tell you we saw exactly the same sort of collar sores from flat buckle collars, from prong collars, from slip collars, and what it is leaving a tool on too long and allowing it to become embedded in the skin and creating pressure necrosis. And we saw it time and time again with dogs that were chained out, and they actually grew into their regular flat buckle collars. It has nothing to do with heat generated by a remote collar, because the reality is, if anybody out there is an electrician listening to the show, the amperage involved in the technology here is so minuscule. It's about the same amperage, probably less than your cell phone. It's not going to create a burn and heat.
Right.
So.
And I have a strong medical background, and I talk to people about how this is nothing like a pacemaker. It's not going to cause their heart to skip a beat or anything like that. It's not going to burn them. It doesn't really increase its effectiveness when they go in the water. These are very high-tech devices. But again, I don't feel like it's the option for every dog, but it is a definite viable option that any good trainer should look at and consider using, especially if you're doing any type of off-lead work. So that's where I feel there's a strong application for this, and I wish more people would look at it, because as a trainer, the last thing I ever want is a dog that I've trained to run away or to get themselves in trouble and run out in the street and get hit by a car. And this is one of the things that you can do to almost guarantee that doesn't happen.
I agree with you.
So,
I just returned from a trip in Arizona, and I was teaching at a K-9 handlers conference. We had about 550 K-9 handlers there, and one of the comments I get from time to time is, well, my dog doesn't need it. And I understand. There are dogs that are extremely biddable, and dogs that that don't challenge particularly often at all. Mm-hmm. And I understand the sentiment that I may not need the collar, but the thing I said to the gentleman in our audience is, I don't feel like I need a seatbelt either. I haven't had an accident. I can't even think back to when I needed my seatbelt. But it is a safety device that I'm sure I'll be glad is there if the day comes. And I feel that way about e-collar training if you're going to take your dog off leash. It is just a nice insurance policy, so to speak, to have on the dog, that if something happens out of the ordinary, and you just never know when you're out there with your dog off leash, you do have that way to cue them to turn around and come back. Even if they can't hear you, like you said, you can have heavy traffic, you can call the dog back to you with that tactile sensation, and it's just a wonderful way to help ensure security when you're off-leash training or playing with your dog.
Absolutely. Well, that you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, that's my goal when I'm done training someone's dog, is that you don't even have to do anything or push any of the buttons. Just give the dog the command, and it's there only if you need it. But so I really appreciate you coming on and helping us kind of, showing people what e-collar's all about, what the training's all about, and that again, it is the most gentle training collar that's out there. Can you tell our listeners a little more about That's My Dog and where they can find you and the services you provide?
Well, we are actually physically located in Dubuque, Iowa. If people are looking for us on the web, it's that'smydog.com. I do have YouTube also. That's My Dog Inc. on YouTube, and I write a newsletter and a blog, so they'd find all those links through our website, that'smydog.com. And if they can't find a trainer in their area, because I think that's the first way to go. If people want to do this, try to get personal training with a hands-on trainer who knows how to use the tool. But if they're really kind of locked and can't find anybody that's open to this in their community, I do have some DVDs on the market called Just Right Training, and that will at least help with the basics of collar conditioning and getting started with the recall and a place command and a few little things like that. So that's where we're at.
I highly recommend. I've got that DVD. I got that shortly after we first spoke about 5 or 6 years ago, and I highly recommend that to people. And that's great advice. Find a trainer that has experience with them. Pick their brain and find out as much information as you can from them and see how they're used. But great advice, and I really appreciate you coming on and helping us out with this, Robin.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it. And, keep spreading the word that, whether they use this tool or any tool, it's all about training and developing a relationship with your dog.
Absolutely, and using it properly, no matter what you use. Well, thank you so much. You have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll definitely have you come back on the show sometime in the near future.
Thanks, all right. Robin. Thank you, Dan.
All right, take care.
You too.
All right, that was Robin MacFarlane from That's My Dog in Dubuque, Iowa. Probably one of the foremost experts in the country on e-collar training. So I hope all you guys kind of at least open your eyes a little bit and are a little more receptive to it. We're going to be right back after this break, and we're going to talk a little more about e-collar usage and how we use it with our working dogs and Maverick Detection Services. You're listening to National K-9 Academy Radio on K-Talk 1650.
be right back with the National K-9 Academy on K-Talk 1650.
Maverick Detection Services is the only company of its kind anywhere. We rescue, rehabilitate, and train homeless worm runners to perform as bedbug detection dogs and Canada geese control K-9s. We are now the nation's largest independent bedbug detection company with 17 certified teams and the region's only geese control company. Our K-9s have been featured multiple times in local news, TV, and business journals, and even on ABC World News Tonight. Check us out on Facebook at Maverick Detection Services or online at todetectandtoserve.com, and you'll see why. Call us at 855-597-7827. Maverick Detection Services, right here in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Buddy, stop pulling me. What have you got in your mouth? Give me that. Buddy, come here. Buddy! No jumping. I'm sorry, are you okay? Buddy, no, I just took you out.
Does this sound like a typical day with your dog? At National K-9 Academy, we can help. We offer all breed obedience training and behavior modification. Our facility boasts 26,000 square feet fenced grass play area, a 4,500 square foot indoor with separate daycare play groups for large and small dogs, 2 saltwater pools, dock diving facilities, and state-of-the-art training equipment with multiple trainers. We offer the area's only lifetime money-back guarantee. Altogether, this could lead to more days like this with your dog.
Good boy, Buddy. I'm so proud of you.
National K-9 Academy, located at 5503 Virginia Beach Boulevard in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Call us at 757-289-2700 and find us on the web at nationalk9academy.com.
And now back with the National K-9 Academy on K-Talk 1650.
And welcome back to the show. We just finished talking about e-collar training with Robin MacFarlane from That's My Dog in Dubuque, Iowa. And we wanted to continue just for a minute or two here and talk a little more about how some of the best trained dogs in the world are actually trained using e-collars. A lot of police dogs have been our working dogs, our geese control dogs. Whenever we go out, they're wearing an e-collar. And you've seen it, even when we're working other dogs, client dogs, off leash, and we pick up an e-collar, what happens?
Your dogs usually run right to you because they think they're doing a geese control.
They run right over and sit, and their tails are wagging, and they think we're getting ready to go load up and go do geese control, because our dogs always are wearing an e-collar when we do geese control, because we're working near heavily trafficked roads. Obviously, it's a safety issue, and there's also a lot of times there's people around, because that's why we're chasing the geese off the property. They're in highly populated areas and where they're unwanted. They're getting aggressive, and they're leaving goose poop everywhere, and they're doing a lot of damage. So there's always people around. Not everybody likes dogs, and big dogs running around can kind of scare some people, even though they're not threatening. They're worm runners, but I want to be able to call them back immediately whenever I need to. So it's a safety thing, around the roads, around other people who may not like dogs. Obviously, the geese are federally protected, so I'm not about to let one of my dogs catch the geese, even though they think they are. I'm never going to let that happen. Some of these, like we talked about, are very high tech. Some of these e-collars have beepers on them, which I can push a button on the remote, and it emits a loud beep that you can hear from blocks away. So if they ever because some of these, I have one, it's a 70-acre property in Chesapeake we do geese control on, and they may get behind some brush or some hedges and things where I can't see them, but I can push a button, I know exactly where my dog is. And some of them, even the more higher tech ones, Garmin has one out, and that's the same Garmin that makes your GPS in your car. They have one called the Garmin Alpha. They joined up with, I believe they bought Tritronics, who's one of the other best e-collar manufacturers in the country, and produced a unit called the Garmin Alpha. And it is not only an e-collar, it's actually a GPS unit with a little handheld controller remote with a screen on it. So you can track up to, I think it's 15 dogs. You can see what direction they're heading. It has like a 9-mile range on it. I mean, that's the ultimate. And I use that a lot when we go out there, because my dog's safety is first. That's first and foremost whenever we go out. So there's some really high-tech, pieces of equipment that are out there that I don't think people are even aware of. A lot of these units, They're completely waterproof, which means your dogs can get in the pool, in the ocean with them. They have permanent batteries that are rechargeable. I think I had one that lasted 9 years before I had to replace the batteries in it, and it was used almost daily. They have up to a mile range on them. A lot of them have the page or tone feature, which either vibrates or emits a little tone. So it's not just giving your dog, static input. It can also just do the page or tone, like we talked about. The Dogtras have up to 127 settings. Some of them have LCD screens on them. They make specific units for small, medium, large dogs. They have so many models. It's not just like the one company has one model. Again, Dogtra is one of my favorites. They have about, I think, 12 different models, depending on the dog, the type of training you're doing, the environment, that sort of thing. But these are real units for serious training and working dogs, hunting dogs. These aren't ones that you're going to buy at the big box store. I would not use something like that. So there's so much more that goes into these now. A good e-collar unit will probably run you anywhere from $200 to $300. They're not, inexpensive, but they will last you, for like I said, a decade if you take care of them and don't lose them. That's the biggest thing I've had is some owners have actually lost the remote, and you can get another remote. It can be a little expensive, well over $100, but I think some of the dogs hide them too. So.
Oh yeah.
But they're extremely reliable. They're long range, completely waterproof, made for dogs of all sizes. They have different models. And they even have one now that's plastic. It's a conductive plastic. It's only been out for the last couple of years. It's made for smaller dogs, so it doesn't have the weight. Some of the larger collars that are have metal contacts and everything. But yeah, they have plastic e-collars now. That's like a technical innovation, a conductive plastic, because everybody knows plastic and things like plastic and wood don't conduct electricity, but apparently they have one now. So, but yeah, so again, it's a very useful training device. It's the safest collar that's out there. It's not the right collar for every dog, and we don't just use it on every dog that comes into the academy, but it is definitely a viable option that we always look at. And with concern to our working dogs, safety is the first thing whenever we load up. That's the first thing on our mind. That's why we always have e-collars charged up and ready to go, because whenever they call us to go chase the geese, we're ready to rock and roll. So people understand it doesn't change the dog's behavior or their personality. And a lot of times when we do train the dogs with them, it's not something you even really have to use. All you have to do is put it on the dog, and they know. It's what I call e-collar effect. They don't know how, but they know you have control of them on or off lead. So it's a correction from God, as they say. That's how the dogs kind of look at it. But yeah, it's kind of funny at the shop. Whenever we pick one up, here comes like 5 of my dogs running over. Where are we going? Where are we going?
Yeah, especially Alvin, which is
Alvin and Jenny's usually the first one over to me.
Jenny?
Yeah, Jenny's usually the first one over when I pick one up. She's usually not too far away anyway. But again, that just shows you. And I do need to make a video of that when I pick one up at the shop.
You pick one up?
Just to show people, look, these dogs are begging for me to put one on them because they know what's about to happen. It's called chaining stimuli. They know e-collar means we're getting ready to go chase geese. So they're excited about that, and they want to go do that, and that's what it means to them. So, and it's the same thing with the dogs of clients we've trained. They know they're going to the beach, or they're going for a walk, or they're going to the park, someplace where they get to run and get it out of their system, and they get excited too. Just like when you grab the leash at home. They know the dog knows he's going for a walk. It's the same thing with an e-collar. So when you see that, and like I said, I've had so many clients over the 8 or 9 years we've been training now, that they're a little, I don't know about this, and then about a month after they've had, they come back and they're like, that thing is so cool. Wow. You're like, I can't believe my dog can run away. And there's, I call them, they come right back because they've never been able to do that before. So, but if you have any questions about e-collars or any other type of training, you can certainly call us. We'd be more than happy to demonstrate for you and answer all your questions. 757-289-2700. And we're going to shift gears now because Christine Lacoste from petsadvisor.com has joined us on the phone. How you doing, Christine?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. And got my co-host Al here today. He's going to talk to us about the dog news of the week that you're going to bring us.
Hey, Christine.
Hi, Al.
Alrighty. Well, I just had a couple things I want to bring up to you, like this one. Whoops! A dog pooped on a plane and caused a emergency landing.
This is interesting because service dogs are allowed on planes, but usually you don't hear about any problems. And it starts out pretty funny, and you thought your last flight was crappy.
If I have to pull this plane over, somebody's in trouble.
Truffle is a service dog aboard U.S. Airways Flight 598 from L.A. to Philadelphia this week. He got sick on the plane and actually relieved himself 3 times in the aisle. If you've ever flown, you know that.
Well, have you ever had airline food? I mean, really? Have you had airline food?
Yes. If you're in a plane, you know how cramped it is, and of course recirculated air. So unfortunately, the stench from the 3 times that the dog couldn't control himself, people started becoming sick themselves. And they ran out of, the second time after the dog pooped, they ran out of paper towels, and they didn't have anything else to clean it up. That was passenger Steve McCall Inside Edition. So the pilot actually decided to make an emergency landing in Kansas City so emergency crews could clean the cabin.
It's kind of... All right, so what was the service dog trained for?
It doesn't say. It just said it was a service dog.
Oh, my. All right. We need to move on to the next story. I just can't imagine being on that flight.
No.
It was
First
so
class.
bad the pilot had to land early.
Y'all are having too much fun with this. I think I'm going to have to avoid poop stories in the future.
Well, anyway, all right, what's the next story?
Alrighty, Christine. Here's another one. A family renovates a kennel to remind their dog of their home.
This is an interesting story, and Dan, you know, because you have board dogs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, when they have pets at home, there's pet beds, there's toys, their happy favorite, sleeping place by the window. But when you drop them off to get boarded, which say you're going on vacation, you know that your dog's basically going into a square. This one family was planning a trip to Thailand. It was their first family trip, and they really didn't want to leave their bulldog in one of those just bland, sterile environments. And this is a local kennel, and I'm surprised they allowed them to do this, but this is in Norway. The kennel actually allowed them to create and decorate their own space at the kennel for their dog. And he got a little out of hand with it. He painted the walls, laid down carpet, even replicated the family sofa. He put artwork on the walls, a coffee table, a pet bed. It was almost as comfortable as a dog would be at home. And it is interesting that the kennel even allowed the family to do this. Would you allow this at your place?
Well, after following the last story, why didn't they take the dog on the plane with them? No, actually, seriously, I've seen the video from this, and, I mean, it almost looks exactly like his home. I mean, he went to great lengths. It's a English Bulldog, if I remember correctly. And, it's kind of hard to imagine somebody coming to do it. Now, we don't have individual kennels. We do the slumber party style boarding at the academy, so it would be kind of difficult for him to do that. We try to make it like home anyway at our place. We have sofas and off the floor dog beds in the back and up front and everywhere pretty much, little dogs. But yeah, he went to great lengths, and they even I don't know if they did it afterwards or while he was doing it, but they had video of him actually making the stuff. I mean, he made the coffee tables, the chairs, the pictures on the wall were exactly like home. And the dog seemed like he wasn't stressed out, but it looks like the dog also had a lot of freedom because the kennel was left open and he was running all over the place. So,
right.
So, yeah.
It's pretty extensive to do just for one vacation, but I guess if hopefully they'll let them use the same kennel he designed every time they go out of town.
I wonder if they're going to keep using that.
Or maybe rent it out as like a luxury suite or something and charge extra for other dogs.
Yeah.
Now, Christine, this one's a little sad. 6 dogs died on her watch. Should the dog walker be punished?
Yeah, this is not a happy story, but it looks like there might be some resolution at the end of it. 6 dogs died earlier this month from heat stroke, and animal activists are demanding that the dog walker who was caring for them be punished. For days, there was actually a search in full force for these 6 missing dogs. The dog walker claimed they went missing in Langley, British Columbia. Some of the pets' owners actually decided to hire Pet Searchers Canada, which is a detective agency, to help recover the dogs. In her initial report, the dog walker said the animals vanished while she was in a restroom at a park. However, a short time later, she changed her story and then confessed to authorities that she had left the animals inside her hot truck for at least 45 minutes. She said that when she found them motionless, she panicked and quickly drove away and found somewhere to dispose of the bodies. She then came back to the park and claimed the pets had been stolen. The 6 dogs were named Timo, Buddy, Mia, Salty, Molly, and Mia. 2 Mias in there. They're being grieved by their owners, of course, while the dog walkers' fate's being decided. The SPCA is pursuing animal cruelty charges, but the final decision does lie in the hands of the prosecutors. I would have to say that I would agree that she does need to be punished because of her carelessness. 6 dogs died. And I can understand if you're a first-time pet owner, you don't automatically know that temperatures rising in vehicles never leave them in, even with the windows cracked. But if you're in the animal pet industry or profession, it should be a no-brainer.
Right. There's no excuse either way. Now, wasn't one of the dogs her personal dog as well?
It doesn't say. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I thought I read somewhere that one of them was her personal dog. But I think a lot of people don't realize there's I should put it up on the Facebook page. There's a little graph that shows when it's 75 degrees out, like it is here today in Virginia Beach. It can actually get up to like 95 in your car. When it's like 80, it can get to 110, 115 in your car. Just like with small children, you can't leave them in the car, even with the windows cracked when it's that hot. But dogs can't cool themselves down that quickly and that rapidly. No. So that's at the very least, she should not be allowed to do anything in the pet industry again.
I agree.
So that's kind of sad that she had to mislead everybody. And from what I heard, it made quite an uproar, not just locally, but across the country when people heard about it. And now the truth has come out. People aren't real happy.
No.
I think the only good thing that can come of this, though, is spreading awareness. When it comes to summer, don't assume just because it's a cloudy day or there's a cool breeze, your dog can sit in the vehicle even with the windows cracked. Be smart about it. Make arrangements. If you can't be somewhere where your dog can go with you, make other plans.
So I believe if it's around here locally, I don't know about everywhere else, but if it's above 75 degrees, it is against the law to leave your dog in the car unattended.
Yeah, I think the laws vary by state, but there's some where you have full authority to break a window and get a dog out.
Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty. The last one is first ever dog to fly in a wingsuit. Cool or cruel?
This is a pretty surprising story, and if you think back, Dan, when we talked about the dog bucket list, this is something that probably might end up on that bucket list, but you would never do. Whisper is the world's first base-jumping canine. His owner, Dean Potter, recently produced a video titled When Dogs Fly. He showed the mini cattle dog's brave endeavor. Well, I don't know if it's the dog's brave endeavor. Technically, a human strapped him and flew. Potter's an experienced base jumper and rock climber, and he wanted to include his pet in the extreme sport that he enjoys so much. So he strapped the dog into a windsuit bag, placed safety goggles over the dog's eyes, and then they jumped from the 13,020-foot Elgar Mountain in Switzerland. And although the dog appeared to be at ease during his flight, and there is video of this if you want to see the dog actually flying, you can just go to buzz.petsadvisor.com. He was clearly overjoyed to touch land again. Animal lovers weren't so happy, though, after seeing the video and immediately raised concerns. They believe putting the dog through an ordeal like that is animal cruelty, and dogs that weren't meant to fly, or they would have been born with wings. But if the dog could have his say on the subject, do you think he would have to keep his paws on the ground, or is that just a cool experience for a dog, like the ultimate hanging your head out the car window?
Just like the first story we did, what do you think the odds are he didn't poop in flight?
Never again. No more poop stories.
Come on, he knew that was coming. I don't know where to go with this. You've seen videos of the dogs surfing and skateboarding, but skydiving, that's a little different. I just don't know if the dog really enjoyed that, or is like, he said he was happy to be on the ground again.
Well, you figured 13,000 feet. I'm assuming that's an acceptable height. I don't know at which point the oxygen would be an issue. I know that planes usually surface or hover around 35,000 feet. I think every dog's different, just like every person is. How your body's going to react to that type of experience. Being the dog's first time, I still think it's a risk.
Does the guy have any plans of doing this again with the dog?
It doesn't say, but right now that's just the only video he's got with the dog.
Wow.
Is it worth the risk? What would have happened if something happened to the dog?
Yeah, true. Wow. Well, I've got a couple stories. I did have a follow-up on the whole story about the Tara the cat saving her owner's son from the dog. It's kind of a sad ending for the dog. The 8-month-old dog was actually put down last week. So to me, that's the tragedy. I know everybody's feeling good about Tara and what happened, and it was a cool video. But it's sad that an 8-month-old dog has been put down. I mean, that dog never had a chance. And what do you want to bet the odds are that dog was never trained? Obviously, it wasn't socialized properly.
Wasn't socialized, wasn't trained, left to run the neighborhood.
Yeah, irresponsible owners letting a dog just run loose, especially with no training. I mean, you can go to nationalk9academy.com, our website, click training, go to behavior modification. You'll see a 7-month-old that had aggression issues. Blue was biting the fake arm and everything, and look at him now. He's a working dog. He's in the small dog play group every day, and he does great. But 8-month-old, that to me is unforgivable. That dog never had a chance. So
right, and you have to also agree that there are, although very rare circumstances, there are some dogs that simply cannot have their aggression controlled or removed, and those are extreme circumstances and not something you come across often.
Yeah, and usually not as a puppy. I mean.
Right.
But anyway, shifting gears a little bit, this is a story that broke here locally. I don't know if you heard about it. There is actually an apartment management firm that, and I'm not kidding you, they are doing DNA testing on the tenants' dogs. By, I think it was June 9th, next week, all tenants have to bring their dogs to the office for swabbing. As they call it, a poo print, where they swab their cheeks to get DNA sample to send off. Do you know why they're doing that?
I think I heard about them doing this in another a city in Europe because they were tired of the dog poop landing on the sidewalk and people not cleaning it up. So they started DNA testing the poop to track down the actual dogs so they could find the owners. They're doing that locally over there.
They're doing it. There's 2 apartment complexes right here in our area doing it. And the firm is, I guess they manage properties elsewhere, and they're considering it elsewhere. I just... Wow, that's all I can say. They're going to that much trouble.
It's very extreme. You figure who's going to cover the cost if they're going to build that into the leases or make that like a regular charge, like a maintenance charge for a condo.
Right, or the fee to have a dog there. But I mean, it's like I posted this on our Facebook page. Like, bend over, people. Pick up after your dog. I mean, it's just, how lazy can you be?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I might start doing DNA testing at the shop to find out who's taking my Doritos.
They're Cool Ranch.
But I just can't believe it's gotten this far. They're doing DNA testing. When I first heard it, I saw the headline, my first thought was they're doing DNA testing to make sure that there's certain breed restrictions that this isn't a mix with. And when I read that it was actually to identify who the poopatrators are, I got you. I just made that up. That. All right, stop. This is like so unnecessary, and there's so many other places we could be using that money in the community.
Cancer research.
Yeah, for other than putting it in DNA testing to find out who's not picking up after their dog. That just. And
I can see, unless it's maybe just a large amount in a small area, small community where it's actually becoming an issue with drainage, with smell, odor, attracting insects. I mean, there could be other reasons at play here.
Yeah, but it just seems so unnecessary. So.
Well, you figure security cameras would have been a cheaper option.
Well, they said they considered it, but they went this route instead. I guess people could wear hoodies or a hat or something you wouldn't be able to positively identify. So.
Well, I think you could tell like a Rottweiler from a Chihuahua, though.
Yeah, that's true. Although who knows? You could have all labs are very popular, golden retrievers. So.
True.
Anyway, we'll have to follow
up. A reminder, too, before we get into next week, I'll remind you again, Father's Day, June 15th is coming up, so start thinking about getting gifts for that pet-loving dad in your life.
There you go. Yeah. All right, Christine, thank you so much. That's Christine Lacoste from petsadvisor.com. Check out the website and the buzz. You'll find a link to the radio show. Well, that's it. How'd you do, Al? How'd you like it?
I liked it. It's pretty fun.
We'll have to have you back sometime.
Thank you.
All right, keep 2015 open. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you guys next week right here on K-Talk 1650.
Your source for great talk radio and news in southeastern Virginia is AM 1650 WHKT Portsmouth.